Hi, I'm Claire from Inspiratrix Yoga. This class is all about connecting to your pelvis, your pelvic floor, and your hips through your awareness and through your breath. Props-wise, it would be really helpful if you have a couple of yoga blocks and maybe a couple of cushions as well. And if you don't, then just improvise with whatever you have to hand. Start lying on your back on the floor with your legs straight if that feels comfortable. Otherwise with your knees bent, and rest your hands on your belly. And in a very low effort way, connect to the movement of your breath at your belly. Allowing that to deepen and lengthen, but in a low effort way. Following each breath as it comes and goes. For today, let's focus on connecting to the pelvis, connecting to your pelvis. If you move your hands a little lower down so you can feel the front of your hip crests. Now feel for letting your breath reach all the way to your pelvis. Notice if your breath reaches the front of your pelvis. And can you relax the front of your pelvis to allow your breath to reach that area? And then notice the back of your pelvis, like your sacrum area, your tailbone area. Feel whether you can send your breath to the back of your pelvis. For me, I have to slightly gather in the front in order to direct the breath to the back. Noticing if you can feel any subtle movement or connection to your sacrum and your tailbone. Then focus on the left-hand side, say around where the left hip joint is. Perhaps move both hands over to the left. Feel for sending slightly more breath to the left-hand side of your pelvis and your left hip joint. Now move both hands over to the right-hand side. Feel for directing your breath to the right-hand side of your pelvis and your hip joint. Then rest both hands anywhere comfortable, and direct your breath to the base of your pelvis, to the pelvic floor. To the sling of muscles that reaches from your tailbone to your pubic bone at the front. You could see that as a hammock, or maybe even like a diamond shape. There's attachments at the sides as well. Breathing in a way that helps you to connect to or feel your pelvic floor. And it's possible to connect to different parts of the pelvic floor as well. So let's focus on the front of the pelvic floor now. Near your pubic bone at the front. Feeling if you can connect your breath specifically to that area. Might be possible, might not be possible. Either's okay. And then connect your breath to the middle of your pelvic floor. Feeling for any movement in the pelvic floor, or establishing any feeling connection there. And then connect your breath with the back of your pelvic floor. Which will connect up to your tailbone. And you've also got your anus around there as well. So through the rest of this class, keep playing with that sense of breath connection to your pelvis. Whether you're generally breathing in the direction of your pelvis, or whether there is a particular place in the pelvis that you felt you wanted to develop more connection. You could keep sending your breath to one of those places we connected to. Let's do a lying down twist now. Stretch your arms out to the side in a T shape. Or if you haven't got space to take your arms in a T, you could take your arms out past your head. Taking the hands a little bit wider if that feels like the arms rest better on the floor. Then bend your knees. Have the soles of the feet on the floor. And then as you begin to twist slowly from one side to the other, do this with that awareness of your pelvis. Connecting your breath to your pelvis, or to any spot there that you want to build better connection to. If one spends a lot of time sitting down, then one's butt can go a bit numb. So it's great to reconnect in feeling with these areas. Do one more to either side. Still moving slowly. After that, bring your left knee towards your chest and hold on to your left knee or your left thigh with your hand. And then straighten your right leg out on the floor. Flex your right foot and press the whole of your right leg down into the floor. And then make some small circles with your left knee. Continuing to connect your breath with the lower part of your torso and your pelvis. Circling the knee one way and then circling the knee the other way. And then switch over. Bring your right knee in towards your chest. Straighten your left leg out on the floor. Left foot flexed. Circling your right knee. Perhaps it's easier to get your breath to one side of the pelvis than the other here. And circle your knee the other way. Great. Then bend both your knees in, roll onto one side and sit slowly up. Just play with shifting your rib cage from side to side. So if you inhale and slide your rib cage to one side, exhale, slide back to the middle, just within whatever's comfortable. Inhale, slide your rib cage the other way. Exhale, back to the middle. Do 2 more of those, either side. Great. Now let's rock forwards and backwards here as well. So feel free to sit on something if you want to with these seated poses, if your hips feel fairly tight when you're sat on the floor. Sometimes that can free up a bit of movement. So inhale, rock forwards on the hips. Exhale, rock backwards on your hips. It's like a mini cat-cow. But stay focused around your pelvis, around your hips. Bringing some gentle movement for that area. Rocking forwards and backwards. Then come back to the middle, and now we'll play with circling that. So taking your rib cage in a circle. Connecting to your breath in whatever way makes sense for you. Doing this super slowly. And just going within what feels comfortable, not going further than feels okay in your spine. Change direction. Go around the other way a few times. Great, and then come back to sitting straight. Now straighten out your left leg in front of you. And then let your right knee fall to the side. Great. And I want to do a bit of a side bend here, but I want to feel for a sense of lifting up the weight off the pelvis. So let's just start with the fingertips on the floor. Inhale, press your fingertips into the floor, lift your whole rib cage up, lift the crown of your head up. Exhale and then slump for a moment. Notice how that kind of lifts the weights sort of up off the pelvis. So do that a couple of times. Inhale, lifting up. Feel that lifting the weight up off your pelvis. Feet active. Exhale. Notice when you kind of let go of that lift, how things drop down. All right, great. One more time. Inhale, lifting up. Keep the lift and slightly rotate to your right. So you're rotating your chest towards the bent knee. Then bring your left hand comfortably onto the straight leg and reach your right arm out into a chest opener. I'm not mirroring right now, so it may or may not be confusing. But right hand in the air, left hand on the straight leg. Inhale and lift your ribcage up. Notice if that changes anything around the pelvic area. Exhale, relax your left ear towards your left shoulder. Keep using your breath to help you connect your pelvis and also to help you lift up some of the weight of your torso away from the pelvis. Bring your arm that's up in the air down now and wrap it behind your back. So right arm wrapping behind your back. Still staying in a side bend, relaxing your head. But then conversely, there's a slight lift up in the rib cage. So you're not collapsed. Yeah. Let your left shoulder soften too. And then feel for having your head and neck in a place that feels like release is possible. Not in a place that feels awkward. Notice if there are times that you disconnect from your pelvis. Bring your breath, your awareness back to that intention of connecting to your pelvis. Okay, inhale and sit all the way up. Change around to the other side. So right leg straight, left leg is bent. Okay. Inhale, press your fingertips on the floor. Lift the rib cage, maybe a few centimeters up away from the floor. Exhale, notice what happens when you collapse. Like you get shorter. Great. Inhale, lift up with the ribs. Lift the crown of the head up. Exhale, collapse. I find when I do this, when I collapse my lower back rounds, when I'm lifted, I get back the natural curve in my lower back. Just do like one more and notice how that is in your lower back. And then keeping that lift, rotate around to the left. Inhale, reach your right arm out over the right leg. And rest it down on the leg or near the leg. Exhale, take your left arm out into chest opener. With your left shoulder, I want you to find somewhere that feels comfortable. That might mean like a different angle or taking the arm further forward, further back. Like what suits your shoulder joint right now? Like my left one, I can't take so high up. Like my left, I have to take lower down. Also playing with relaxing your right ear towards right shoulder. Second position, wrap your left arm behind your back. Continuing to allow your head and neck to release to the side at an angle that feels comfortable for you. Feet a little active too. Notice if you've collapsed down here, feel for lifting up the rib cage, making a bit of space, taking some of the weight up off the pelvis. Great. Unwind out of that. I want to do some abdominals, but with the hips lifted up, because kind of, again, it takes weight off of the pelvic bowl. So if you've got a bolster, you could use a bolster for this. If you don't have a bolster, I've just put kind of some blocks side by side to make a little platform. Coming into lying on the back with the hips on this little platform. So I'd suggest just lying on your back first and then inserting your bolster or your blocks underneath. To make a little bit of a platform. There we go. So that the backs of your hips are elevated. Just pause here for a moment in this supported bridge. It's like a supported low bridge. Extending your breath towards your pelvis. And just noticing with the hips slightly lifted, what is different? What do you experience that's slightly different from having the hips on the floor? Let's do dipping frog with the hips elevated. Lift up one leg and then lift the other leg up. Inhale and internally rotate your left leg. Exhale, move your left heel down in the direction of the floor. Now it might not reach the floor, that's totally fine. You might just go a couple of inches. Stop if at any point you feel any strain in your back. Inhale, slowly lift that leg back up. Internally rotate your right leg. Gather the belly in as you move your left heel down in the direction of the floor. So this is an exhale. Might not reach the floor, it might just go a couple of inches, that's fine. Feel for your lower back, not feeling tweaky or unstable. Keep the range of movement within a range that isn't stressful to the back. Inhale, leg comes back up. Now both legs come into frog. So with this one, there's no rotation, but the legs are going out to the sides. Feet are flexed. Exhale, gather your belly in. Stretch your inner thighs out to the sides. Inhale, knees back together. Internally rotate your right leg. Exhale, gather the belly in, right heel moves down. The leg is staying bent, it's not straightening out. Inhale, leg comes back up. Internally rotate left leg. Exhale, gather the belly in, move your left heel. Inhale, leg comes back up. Set your legs up in frog now. Knees are sort of level with the hips, they're not forward or backwards with the hips. Exhale, gather your belly in. Feet are flexed. Inhale, knees back together. Internally rotate left. Exhale, gather belly in. Left heel moves down. Inhale, leg comes back up. Internally rotate right leg. Exhale, gather your belly in. Right heel slowly dips down. Inhale, leg comes back up. Legs go into frog. Send your breath all the way down to the hips. Exhale, gather your belly in. Inhale all the way to your pelvis. Knees come back together. Internally rotate right leg. Exhale, gather your belly in. Right heel moves down. Inhale, right foot comes back up. Internally rotate left leg. Gather the belly in. Exhale, heel moves down. Inhale, leg comes back up. Reset the legs to frog. Exhale, gather the belly in. Bring both knees back together and then bring one foot to the floor and then the other foot to the floor. Pause for a moment with the hips elevated if that's still comfortable. Otherwise, feel free to remove the blocks or bolster. Connecting your awareness with your hips, your pelvis. Bridge with one leg up. We'll do this with the hips lifted up on bolsters or blocks. Or if that's not feeling comfortable anymore, you can also do this just with your hips on the floor. That's fine as well. Bring your right foot into the middle a little. Inhale, bring your left knee in towards your chest. Exhale, reach your left foot up towards the ceiling, spreading your toes out. Have your heel above your hip in space. And then do some slow circles with your left ankle. Right foot stays still on the floor. And then circle that foot the other way. And then point and flex the foot. So let's say inhale, reach the ball of the foot up towards the ceiling. Exhale, flex your foot, pressing the heel up to the ceiling. Do that a couple of times. And then bend your knee, bring the sole of the left foot down to the floor. Shuffle it into the middle a little. Inhale, bring your right knee towards your chest. Exhale, reach the right leg up in the air. Can you still connect your breath with your pelvis as you play with your foot? Doing some circles to begin with. Circling at the ankle. So the leg is straight, it's just the foot that's circling. And then circle the other way around. And then point and flex. So inhale, reach the ball of the foot up. Exhale, flex your foot. Inhale, reach the ball of the foot up. Exhale, flex your foot. Do one more. And then bend your knee, bring the foot down to the floor. Position both feet so they feel even on the floor. And then slowly remove the props from underneath your hips. And then track your spine slowly back down to the floor. So it's kind of nicer on the back if you just lift the hips and move the prop out rather than rolling off it. It's quite complicated. Once you're back down on the floor, roll onto one side and then come onto your hands and knees. Okay, let's do cat-cow. You could either do this on the hands, or if you prefer, you could do this on the forearm. That works as well. Starting just with some hip tilts, starting just with awareness of your pelvis. Inhale, relax your lower belly down. Let your tailbone tilt up. Notice the direction your pelvis tilts as you do that. Exhale, gather your belly in and up, tilt your tailbone down. Good. Inhale, tailbone tilts up, lower belly drops down. Exhaling, tilting the other way. Do a few more, just focusing on the hips. Focusing your breath, your awareness around your pelvis. And then keeping that awareness of your pelvis, allow the movement now to travel up your spine, moving into a more typical cat-cow. But starting this movement from your pelvis and keeping an awareness of your pelvis as you do some typical cat-cows. Then we'll come into a wide-kneed child's pose. So if you take your knees a little wider and your toes together, so knees are wide, toes together, and then take your hips back onto your heels into child's pose. And then either rest your head on the floor or perhaps stack your fists or put a block underneath your forehead. Whatever feels most comfortable. And if child's pose feels stressful to your body today, instead come onto your back and bring your knees into the chest instead. This is a great place to breathe into your belly, relaxing your belly, and to breathe into your pelvic floor, feeling for the space, feeling for allowing your pelvic floor to be relaxed. And feeling for the movement generated by your breath in your pelvic floor. It's good not to be chronically over tightening the pelvic floor, but if you feel like that you want to play with the difference between relaxation and engagement there, it's quite nice to, as you breathe in, allow the pelvic floor to relax outwards. As you breathe out, gather your pelvic floor in. So inhale, pelvic floor relaxes outwards. Exhale, pelvic floor gathers in. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Push your hands into the floor to lift up out of child's pose. So you're on your hands and knees to do some hip circles. And you probably could, you could do these in the forearms as well if that felt better. So from the hands and knees, take your hips back towards your heels. Inhale, swing your hips out to one side and forwards. Exhale, swing your hips to the other side and back. Do 2 more in that direction. Great. And then change the direction, do some the other way. Sitting up for a moment, and then making your way into Shavasana. One option for Shavasana today is to use some blocks to support underneath your legs. So I've got a couple of blocks. You could equally use cushions for this because you can do like a supported Badakanasana. Making your way back up to being upright. And now we'll come into Shavasana. One option for today is to do Badakanasana in Shavasana, which is where you have the soles of the feet together, knees out to the side, but supporting the legs. This would be lying down on the floor. So if you have a couple of blocks like this, a great way to use them is to tilt them at an angle so you're not poking the hard edge of the block into your leg. Tilt them so they support flat on the leg. Or you could use a couple of cushions or bolsters. Something like that would totally work. So make your way down onto your back on the floor. Take any extra props you might want, like blankets. And then have the soles of your feet together, knees dropping out to the side, but support underneath your legs with cushions or blocks or whatever. Then rest your hands on your belly. And drop into a restful state. Letting your legs be supported by the props. Building up more props if you need to. And if this doesn't feel comfortable at all, just rest with the knees together instead. letting your eyes close. Allowing your awareness to stay with your hips, your pelvis. Shavasana. Take a long breath in through your nose, then sigh out through your mouth. Do that 2 more times, in through the nose and sighing through the mouth. Use your hands to bring your knees back together. And then roll onto one side. And from your side, sit all the way back up. Thank you for joining me for this class today and exploring connecting to your pelvic floor and your hips. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you want to join me for another practice again soon, if you're joining me on YouTube, then click on the bell icon and the subscribe button, and YouTube should let you know whenever I put new videos out there. If you're an All the Yogas member, then know that there are lots more of these videos in the virtual yoga vault, which you can log into and enjoy. And of course, you also know that I do live Zoom classes as well, so you're very welcome to join me there if you're an All the Yogas member. If you're not a member, then I'll put details in the YouTube description down below. I hope to see you for another class soon.